Okay, move back to the regular agenda. Back to you, Mr. McIntosh. We're dealing with D4, which is the park washroom refurbishment at Carey Jane Washroom, Carey Jane Grey Washroom upgrade.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is before you to seek approval for an amendment to capital project number 1385, park washroom refurbishment at Carey Jane Grey Park. In 2021, Council approved this project within the capital plan. The project replaces the existing washroom facility that is at the end of its life and would support the 2022 BC Games being hosted later this year. The project went out for tender in 2021 and one bid was received, which was over the estimated project budget. Given the construction market challenges at that time, it was decided to re-tender in early 2022 in hopes of obtaining more competitive pricing that would fit the existing budget. Again, only one bid was received, in which the proposed construction costs were above the approved capital budget. Administration is requesting additional funding in the amount of $260,000 on top of the 2021 approved funding of $500,000 to complete this project. The amended budget totaling $760,000 would be comprised of the 2021 approved capital funding of $500,000, an additional $135,000 from the Community Works Fund, and an additional $125,000 from the General Infrastructure Reinvestment Fund. Leland Hansen, Manager of Project Delivery, and myself are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Councillor McConaughey, followed by Councillor Ramsey.
Thanks very much, Mayor Hall. Was there any further presentation from staff, or?
I think Mr. Hansen, are you wanting to make any comment, or?
We can show the plans. Is that helpful?
Your Worship, Mr. Hansen just has the engineered drawings for the proposed washroom at Carey Jane Grey.
Actually, that was one of my questions, so I'll wait until this is done, if that's okay.
Did you want to comment on these, Mr. Hansen?
Sure. So what you're seeing is an isometric of this washroom. It's 750 square feet. It's a little bit more than double than what was existing. In terms of size, as well as its toilets and urinals and sinks and stuff. There's storage in there for parks. Carey Jane is a large park, and there's needs for parks to be able to put small equipment into there. That's that rolling shutter door there, top right there. Yep, thank you. Concrete block building. We debated whether or not that could be wood or something else, but given the kind of abuse these buildings take, we ended up back at the concrete block again. There's a floor plan too. You want to, I can't, up or down? Oh, there you go. There's a cross section. There's a floor plan. Nothing too special. Big square. So 750 square feet. We built the same floor plan in Ron Brant in 2020. It was 40% smaller, and it was like 200,000 tendered, built, and then 2021. Even if you prorate this, it's double.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor McConaughey, you're on. Okay, so
it still doesn't help. Even when I see the plans, I thought maybe I was going to see a 3-story building with a, I don't know, hot tub and a pool attached or something for this kind of price tag. Sorry. So, so just a couple questions. So this is replacing the old one. Do these costs include a demo, perhaps, of the structure that is already there?
Yes, correct.
What is that cost broken out of it, Mr. Hansen, do you think?
40,000.
Oh, that doesn't help either.
No.
Yeah. And additional, this kind of price for just a square building is just blowing me out of the water. And one of the things that I had, or a suggestion, was can we reduce scope in any way, or is there any other way to get this price down, Mr. Hansen? I mean, we could build a whole house for this. it's not your fault, of course. I'm just blown away by the cost. How about a different material, or there's got to be a way, perhaps? Just some suggestions, Mr. Hansen.
You'd be compromising its durability if you switch from the concrete block.
Is that what's driving the cost up? Pardon my ignorance.
Definitely part of it. No, it is, yeah.
It's the material of the concrete blocks.
Yes.
I'm really challenged with this kind of cost for basically a square building when a very small percentage is the demo. And I'm really struggling with this. And in fact, my approval's on the line, to be honest with you, because it's a significant amount of money. I'm going to let my other colleagues jump in, of course. And, but yeah, I'm truly struggling with this. Is there a way to just put up some new curtains and some old new throw pillows out on the existing structure at this time, Mr. Hansen, or any way?
Defer to a future years, yeah.
Yeah.
Your Worship, if I could interject,
Of course.
the existing facilities, there's flooding issues now, the servicing issues. So when they are open during the summer, they just don't function as for when they were new. So.
So it's the mechanical, the plumbing, those kinds of things.
Servicing, those kind of issues.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really tough right now, and I don't know if I know that we have to address the issues, and I might be come back and just offer the challenge to fix what needs to be fixed within the plumbing, perhaps, and secure the envelope. It's just a really tremendous cost for a small building, but as I say, I welcome the input from my colleagues also, and appreciate it. Thanks.
Councillor Ramsey, followed by Councillor Frizzell.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just have a couple questions. The first question I'm curious about is this isn't the first time this went to tender. It originally went to tender in June 2021. Was the second bid the same amount, or was it higher?
Slightly higher.
Slightly higher to account for inflation or supply chain issues, or?
Just, different time.
Okay. And so if we were to hold off on this, there is the potential that when we go to tender again, it could be even higher next time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is so uncertain right now with the way the market is. This is just a fraction of what I'm seeing these days.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of these we're going to keep seeing. How long would you say is the life of an asset like this?
25 years, 30. Yeah, it's a concrete block. And
25 years. So if I take that $760,000 over 25 years, it's roughly about $30,000 a year. This is a lot of money for a washroom facility. It's not just for the BC Games, but this is an important area of town that holds lots of events. It's an it's an area of town that many people use in our community. My concern is that if we do hold off on this, it's going to just continue to increase in costs. I do think that perhaps we need to bite the bullet on this. It's coming from a funding source. I do appreciate that it's coming from Community Works and General Infrastructure Reinvestment. Because it is a 25-year asset, I do think that that's amortized over quite a long period of time. So I'm a bit more comfortable with that, knowing that it is a long-term asset in our community. But it is still a lot of money for a washroom, but just given the uncertainties in the construction industry, I am concerned that there needs to be a washroom in that facility, in that park. You can't not have a washroom in there unless we're going to put outhouses in there and maintain those. There's going to be additional cost for that as well. So I do think I will support this, but it is a tough one for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Frizzell, followed by Everett.
Thank you, Mayor Hall, and thank you for the comments from all my colleagues on this. I think it outlined the trade-offs that we have to make and the forward thinking on rising costs and and needing to have facilities of some sort in advance of the summer games. Questions around the sources of the funds. Could we not simply take $260 out of the Community Works Fund?
That would be a Chris question.
Your Worship, I would defer to Mr. Dallow to answer that question.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Works Fund has a couple of limitations to it. We can't fund city equipment or city labor. And so you'll very rarely see a project that is 100% funded by Community Works because there's bound to be some staff time to it at some point, or some equipment that we need to do our side of the project. So there's always going to be a component of our own funding alongside Community Works to make the eligibility of those funds that don't match the Community Works.
Can we tweak this? I know this comes to us probably after much thinking and formula, but even if we made this 160 and 100, that's 25,000 it saved the city. Is that something we can do, or is this connected to a specific formula? Can we just do that?
We've sort of adjusted the formula a little bit lately. We found that we have not been quite estimating enough for non-community works fund sources. We're finding a number closer to 20%. So the number does have some historical data backing the breakdown that we're suggesting to council. So my recommendation to council is not to mess with those proposed funding sources.
Well, I had to give it a try. Thank you. I am heartened to see that there is a healthy contingency. After a lot of discussion, seeing that there is that contingency means that if all things work out very well, then we might get something back on this. I hesitantly have to support this as well. It's not the fun thing to do, but it is the right thing to do.
Thank you, Councillor Frizzell. Councillor Everett, followed by Councillor Skaken.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate the conversation that we're having, because when you simply take a reading of a park washroom refurbishing and you put a price tag of $760,000, you kind of wonder whether it's gold plated or silver lined. And I think that in some of these cases we need to look internally to see whether or not we can do the work ourselves because of the escalation that's going on out there with the shortage of trades that are available to us or material. And I know that we don't build very many buildings, so we're not going to have many bricklayers go out there and do a block building for us. But would it be possible to do this, Your Worship, out of metal, steel, instead of block?
Steel is
Same
durable.
kind of,
it just doesn't hold it. It gets bashed up over time. So,
and price-wise, it probably isn't a lot of difference.
no.
Well, I reluctantly believe that we're going to have to bite the bullet on this and do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Everett. Councillor Skaken, followed by Councillor Scott.
Well, thank you, Worship. I can appreciate that the costs have gone up, but I can't support it. I mean, we can't forget, it wasn't even 2 months ago that we sat in these chambers and we debated for a couple nights till, God, I think one night was almost midnight about the difficulty of our budgets and how much we wanted the tax increase to go up to, and to spend $760,000 on one, I guess, washroom, if you will, or building is too much. And I guess to Mr. Dalio, he'll probably say no, but I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can use any of that restart money and move things around to offset some of this funding? To Mr. Dalio, to start with, Your Worship.
The Safe Restart funding has its own criteria. Mm-hmm. I'd have to review it one more time to see if I could would think this would fit the criteria.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you would have to leave that with me to go and research.
Okay.
But my guess is that it would not be, but the Safe Restart funding is really meant to do operating expenses, like to fill our operating revenues that fell short. It's really not intended to build capital assets. So I don't feel it would be in the spirit of the money with which we were given.
Okay, so that's almost a definite no then, correct?
Yeah, I could take one more look to be sure, but my inclination would be that it would almost certainly be not okay.
Okay, and as far as the games, Your Worship, Is that building adequate now for the games? I mean, you paint the cement floor, you do some other works. It's just, this is such a big project right now, and just for administration.
Your Worship, in conversation with operational staff, they feel that that washroom is not sufficient. If it's not replaced, we would have to look at a rental outhouse porta potty model and hopefully accommodate any accessibility challenges that may go along with using a porta potty as well.
But right now, those people could still access that existing building now with accessibility. So yeah, we wouldn't expect them to try and, you know, get into an outhouse. So anyways, I can't support this at this point, Your Worship. If the project was scaled down and we can come back in at $500,000 and do it, I would, but at $750,000, I just can't do it right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Worship. Could I ask, where are the parks equipment currently being housed?
Can't answer that.
Your Worship, I think it's not equipment as far as motorized equipment. I think it's just tools and probably small hand equipment that would be utilized at the park.
Could we go back to the floor plan of this building? Because that was a substantial amount of space with an overhead door for the kind of equipment you're talking about.
Yeah, Your Worship, I believe in consultation with park staff, they were desiring a lockable storage area in the vicinity so they wouldn't have to tram equipment back and forth from the public works yard.
Okay. You know, some pills are better than others, and I really think this is one that I'm going to be prepared to step into, because I believe that I don't want to host the games dependent on porta potties. And I believe specifically in this family/accessible space. And so I will actually support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Thank you, Councillor Sampson.
Thanks very much, Your Worship, and thanks to my colleagues and Mr. Hanson and Mr. McIntosh for your comments on this. My line of thought was actually similar to Councillor Scott's first comments, which with respect to the storage space. Just looking for a refresher on, in the same vicinity, in the same site, we have the Citizen Field, or whatever we call that now. I don't think it is called Citizen Field anymore, but is there not storage space in that giant cement grandstand facility that we could have parks equipment? When I looked at this over the weekend of this report, I thought to myself, as Councillor Scott mentioned, that's a very large storage space that could potentially reduce the cost by a significant amount, and whether it's transporting equipment to the site or whether we can maybe store it in the grandstands of Citizen Field, maybe that would be an alternative. 40% bigger than the one we did in 2020 at Ron Brant. At $200,000 would be $280,000. Instead, it's $760,000. And with Corey's, Councillor Ramsey's comments of, amortized over the 25 years, that's $8,000 for the $200,000 a year, or $11,000 a year for the $280,000 project. But that's $30,000 for a $760,000 bathroom, and I don't doubt the cost at all. Don't get me wrong. I don't doubt that this is what it's going for. I'm just shocked that this is what it's going for, and struggling to see how a cement block building could do that. So I guess I'm not in favor of supporting it as is right now. I don't believe, but just if there's any comment on maybe the facility at Citizen Field, and if there is any, I know we have a tenant in that facility, I believe, as well, and so perhaps there's space that we can access, maybe there's not, if there's any comment on that.
Your Worship, I'd have to confirm with staff. I mean, that's the senior men's baseball field, so they obviously have some equipment there. I'm not sure about the availability, I'd have to definitely check on that.
Great, thanks a lot. I won't support it as is today. I think there might be an opportunity. We often lease facilities like the field for a very, very, very extremely nominal amount of money, and so perhaps if we can work, if there's not space dedicated to us right now, we can work with the tenant to find space in that facility for our parks equipment. It might be we could turn around and put some of this money more into the facilities rather than into a washroom, and I'd feel better about that. But just simply that kind of money into a washroom, when, if we can turn around and store some stuff in the field and put in an extra $200,000 into the field, the ball diamonds, that would even excite me a bit more. So I'm struggling. So as it is right now, I'm not going to support, but I would put a motion on the floor. I think to have this, I want to reject it, but I don't. So I think I'd rather have that information come back with Citizen Field and what that looks like and potential other storage facility opportunities on site, and then we can make the decision on the bathroom or the washroom accordingly. But as is, I wouldn't support. So I guess I'll move for it to come back with the information with Citizen Field and other storage opportunities on the site.
Yeah, Your Worship, I will ask staff about the entire recreational corridor if there's any opportunities.
Maybe there's other spots besides sure. So maybe I'll make it more broad, that it comes back to council with information regarding storage opportunities for parks equipment in any of the facilities that are currently existing on site.
Thank you.
Your Worship, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
To question Mr. Leland or Mr. Hansen, if we were to review the footprint and revamp the washroom, there's an additional cost to the architect, I'm assuming, and additional time frame.
There'd be design fees that we'd have to pay additionally to start over. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntosh, before I go to Councillor McConaughey, one of the things that we're trying to meet, I'm assuming, is that this particular building is going to be ready for the summer games. Summer games aren't far off. What are we, about 4 months away?
That is correct.
So what's the timeline for construction?
Finished early July.
So if we got started by what point, Mr. Hansen?
ASAP right now.
So that's not going to happen if the motion passes, that we come back with more information. It's going to be post-games. So, okay, thank you. I have Councillor Sampson out, Councillor McConaughey.
Thanks very much, Mayor Hall, and I really appreciate staff going through this with us. As I said at the very outset, I was struggling with supporting it as is. I think it is worth the time to do it right and really take a look at how it could be, the footprint could be revisited. Yeah, I think it's really important, regardless of whether there's games or not. I know they're very important. We don't want to, but if we we could rent Porta Johns if we had to. Not that I'm saying I prefer it. However, I don't want that to rule the day either on this capital asset and spending more money than what we need to. So, yeah, and it's worth paying the few dollars to have it revisited, I think, Mr. Hansen. I really appreciate your patience on this. So I won't support the recommendation. We'll support Councillor Sampson's recommendation that you bring it back, reworked, and see what we can do. And I appreciate it. Thanks.
Councillor Ramsey.
Can I just add, thanks, Mayor Hall. I just have a question through to Mr. Hansen or perhaps Mr. McIntosh. Should that come back reworked, would we have to go to tender again on that? Because it would be a different design or concept.
I would have to defer to Mr. Henderson.
Mr. Babbage could assist us with that.
Yes, Your Worship, if there's a material change to the design, then we would have to go out to another competitive process on that, Your Worship.
And how do we know approximately how much we've currently spent on design work for the existing building?
It's 40,000.
Mayor Hall, I get that we're wanting to save some money here, but I'm worried that by redoing work that we've already done and going to tender again, we're going to actually be effectively wasting money, and it's still going to possibly come back higher than what the Ron Brant building costs because just of where construction costs are right now. We're in a labor shortage. We're in a skills shortage. supply shortage, we're in a short shortage. I'm not going to support the motion on the floor. I want to see this go through. So I'm going to stick to my initial perspective on this and see how it plays out. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Frizzell.
Thanks, Mayor. All along the same lines, I think Councillor Ramsey's reasoning is solid. We're looking at an uptick of an additional 135 coming out of the provinces through UBCM and the federal government's Community Works Fund. The rest of that money is our GERF fund, and it sounds like that could be eaten up by delays and escalations of costs. We know how volatile the market is, so I can respect and appreciate the direction that motion was going in, but I want to go with the original motion, so I won't support this one, but I will support the next one when it comes back.
Thank you very much. Councillor Everett.
Your Worship, I'm of the same view. I believe that we're talking about $125,000, and if we spend $40,000 of that for redesign, hopefully that's the right number. And with everything going up, that could be $50,000. And then we ask for a rebid. We've got a delay time and maybe a further escalation of the price for it. So I'm thinking that we're dithering away while Rome is burning, and we should move forward with the original purchase.
Thank you very much. Councillor Skaken.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. So I need to understand the motion for referral, because if we just look and see if there's other capacity to store our stuff, it doesn't get us to the end goal, in my opinion, of changing the footprint. Because if we can find other storage area, we don't need to have that in the building. So I'm just wondering, Your Worship, so we can come to a resolution closer. I don't know if there's going to be support for Councillor Sampson's motion, but I don't know if I can amend it or if it would change the intent, because my goal would be, Your Worship, to administration is come back with a plan without the storage facility. And we'll find places to store the stuff. So that's my goal. So I don't know, Your Worship, to administration, if that's changed the intent of Councillor Sampson's motion too much, or perhaps I might wait for the vote and then try and get it after. I don't know. So
My understanding is that it would change the intent. I don't think that was part of your motion. Was it, Councillor Sampson?
I can clarify. My motion was to get that information, essentially defer this decision, and then potentially go the direction Councillor Skaken's mentioning once we have that information back regarding whether there's storage facility opportunities. But I don't disagree with Councillor Skaken's comments. My intent was just a slightly stepped approach, I guess, in that let's hear about the storage options prior to making the decision to reduce the footprint, but not necessarily disagreeing with Councillor Skaken's end game, because that would be similar to mine, but the first step being just this information. So
thank you, Councillor Sampson. And Your Worship, we're under the gun here, and I think it's unfortunate because Council has very little latitude to even cut away at the project. So I'm just wondering, the report was written on February 15th. When did administration know, unless it came to us in the capital project, when did administration know that the cost had gone up this much?
We closed in January this year, 2022. Okay,
so we're just going through the budget process. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I think for something like this, Your Worship, we're in between a rock and a hard place now. If we had been able to deal with this a month and a half ago, it would have given us more room to trim down the project. But I'll support the referral, but I won't support the original project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sampson, back in?
No, sorry, Your Worship. Just wanted to.
Okay, recommendation on the floor from Councillor Sampson, seconded by Councillor Skaken. All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? Thank you. That resolution is defeated. We have the recommendation recommendation at D4. Seconder, Councillor Everett and Councillor Sampson.
Thanks, Your Worship. The original design for the project was roughly $40,000. To reduce the footprint, will it take another $40,000? It's a cheaper to amend an original design than it is to restart from scratch. Is that correct?
I wouldn't anticipate it costing $40,000 to reduce it. No, correct.
Great, thanks very much. I won't be supporting the recommendation on the floor, but I would support. You know, I wanted to see that stepped approach, but I agree more with Councillor Skaken's comments on going right for it and finding the storage elsewhere if we have to, because I do recognize we're in a time sensitivity situation, and I know that the games aren't the be all and end all for everything we do, but we definitely want to show our city off in the best of light. So I would make an amendment or propose an amendment, I should say, that would see that this is approved with a reduction of the storage facility space. So we're not approving the project as is, we're approving it with the reduction of the storage facility space.
Mover and seconder accept the amendment. Ms. Conley, Mr. Babich?
Your Worship, I'm just wondering if that would be in order, given that we have an award, a competitive process that's been completed based on this plan.
Correct.
So in order to make an award for a revised plan, the plan would need to be amended and then put back out. So
this recommendation would have to be defeated.
I'm not sure that it would be in order for council to put it forward and without that causing a new competitive process to be.
Okay, so we have the original recommendation on the floor.
I understand. I'll pull back my amendment. Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Mr. Babich.
Okay, recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Skaken, Councillor McConaughey, Councillor Sampson are opposed. That carries 5-3. Thank you.